Ladies and gentlemen, there is a painful truth in life that many don't realize until it's too late. People do not value what they have until it's gone. It happens in friendships, relationships, families, businesses, even in leadership. The greatest regret in life is not what you lost, but what you failed to appreciate while you had it. Right now, someone is ignoring a faithful friend. Someone is overlooking a loyal partner. Someone is disrespecting a great leader. But mark my words, one day they will wake up and realize what they lost. My question to you is, will you wait for the world to see your value, or will you walk boldly in your purpose, knowing your worth? Because the truth is, if they don't see it now, one day they will. There is a harsh truth about human nature. We rarely recognize the true value of something while we have it. It is only in its absence that we fully comprehend its worth. This pattern repeats itself in relationships, friendships, workplaces, and even in society at large. We take people for granted, assuming they will always be there, and only when they are gone do we realize the depth of their impact on our lives. Consider the people who have played significant roles in your life, the ones who supported you, encouraged you, and stood by you even when others walked away. How often do we pause to truly appreciate them? Instead, we get caught up in our routines, our distractions, and our assumptions that they will always be within reach. But when life shifts and they are no longer there, we are left with a void that no one else can fill. This truth is evident in history. Many of the world's greatest leaders, visionaries, and thinkers were misunderstood, ignored, or even rejected in their time. Their wisdom was disregarded, their contributions undervalued. But after they were gone, the world suddenly opened its eyes, wishing they had listened sooner. It happens in personal relationships as well, whether in families, marriages, or friendships. A husband may neglect his wife's love and sacrifice until she decides to leave. A company may overlook a loyal employee until they resign and take their skills elsewhere. A child may not fully appreciate their parents until they are no longer around to guide them. The lesson is the same. Value must be recognized in the present, not in hindsight. There is a common phrase that says, "You don't know what you have until it's gone." But the truth is, people often know exactly what they have. They just assume they will never lose it. This assumption is dangerous because it breeds complacency. It makes us careless with our words, our actions, and our priorities. We fail to nurture relationships, fail to express gratitude, and fail to cherish what is right in front of us. Then, when time has taken it away, we are left with nothing but regret. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens to carry because it comes with the realization that things could have been different. The pain of losing something valuable is intensified when we know we had the opportunity to appreciate it but didn't. That's why wisdom calls us to live with awareness, to be intentional in valuing the people and opportunities around us. Instead of waiting for loss to teach us a painful lesson, we must train ourselves to see value now, to express gratitude now, and to nurture what matters before it slips away. The most powerful thing you can do today is take a moment to reflect. Who in your life deserves more appreciation? What blessings are you overlooking? Because one day, if you don't acknowledge them now, you may find yourself looking back, wishing you had seen their worth before it was too late. Every individual on this earth was created with a unique purpose, a specific role to play that no one else can fulfill in the same way. Yet, too often, people underestimate their own value because those around them fail to acknowledge it. It is a dangerous thing to base your worth on how others treat you, because many people do not recognize significance until it is gone. However, whether they see it or not, your presence carries a purpose that impacts lives, changes atmospheres, and leaves lasting imprints in ways you may not even realize. Think about a light in a room. When it is turned on, people may not pay much attention to it, but the moment it goes out, everyone notices the darkness. This is exactly how life works. When you are consistently showing up, giving your best, and pouring into others, people may not always express their appreciation. They may take your kindness for granted, assume your contributions are small, or even act as if they could easily replace you. But the moment you step away, the absence of your presence reveals just how important you were. There are countless stories of people who went unnoticed until they left. A hardworking employee resigns, and suddenly the company struggles to fill the gap. A devoted mother quietly holds the family together, and only when she is no longer there does everyone realize the sacrifices she made. A leader serves faithfully, yet is overlooked, but when they step aside, chaos takes over. This is proof that your presence is significant, even when others fail to acknowledge it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that their value is determined by external validation. If others do not clap for them, they assume they are not making an impact. If their efforts go unnoticed, they feel unimportant. But the truth is, purpose is not measured by applause, it is measured by impact. You do not need people to see you in order to be effective. Even when it seems like no one is paying attention, your presence is shifting things in ways you cannot. Think about an athlete who trains for years before stepping onto the field, or an artist who perfects their craft long before their first masterpiece is recognized. The process of growth is often lonely. There will be times when it feels like your efforts are unnoticed, when you wonder if your work even matters. But these moments are where true champions are made. The temptation to quit will always be there, but those who endure will one day see the rewards of their persistence. One of the biggest dangers of seeking validation too early is that it can lead to discouragement. If you constantly look to others for approval, you will find yourself trapped in a cycle of doubt and frustration. Not everyone will recognize your potential immediately. Some people will ignore you until they see success, and only then will they claim they always believed in you. But by that time, their validation will no longer matter, because you will have already built yourself into someone who doesn't need external approval to know their worth. This is why you must keep building, keep reading, keep learning, keep practicing, keep working. Even if no one is applauding you now, your dedication will pay off. The hours you spend in preparation, the sacrifices you make, the discipline you maintain, all of it is setting the foundation for your future. When the moment comes for you to step into the opportunities you've been preparing for, you will not have to scramble to prove yourself, but you will already be ready. So do not stop just because no one sees you. Do not slow down just because the recognition has not come yet. The people who ignore you today will one day wish they had paid attention, but by then you will be too busy succeeding to care. Keep building, keep growing. Your time is coming. One of the most painful realities of life is that many people only recognize wisdom in hindsight. They ignore sound advice, overlook valuable opportunities, and take important people for granted, only to regret it later. Wisdom is the ability to see beyond the present moment, to understand the long-term consequences of actions, and to value what truly matters before it is too late. The difference between those who live with fulfillment and those who live with regret is the ability to recognize wisdom now, rather than waiting until life forces them to see it. Throughout history, countless individuals have learned the hard way that wisdom ignored today becomes regret tomorrow. People reject wise counsel in their youth, only to wish they had listened when they are older. They waste time chasing temporary pleasures, only to realize later that they should have been building something lasting. They mistreat or neglect relationships, only to discover too late that they lost something irreplaceable. This cycle repeats itself across generations, yet many fail to break it because they do not develop the wisdom to see beyond the immediate moment. The reason wisdom is often ignored is that it does not always produce immediate results. Foolishness is usually loud, exciting, and appealing in the short term, while wisdom requires patience, discipline, and self-control. Many people reject wise choices because they do not see an instant reward. They prefer shortcuts over the slow process of growth. But what they do not realize is that every decision they make is planting seeds that will eventually grow into either success or regret. Those who embrace wisdom today are preparing themselves for a future of stability, purpose, and fulfillment. Those who ignore it will eventually find themselves looking back, wishing they had chosen differently. A person's life is shaped by the choices they make daily. Small, seemingly insignificant decisions accumulate over time and determine whether they move toward wisdom or regret. A student who ignores studying may not feel the consequences immediately, but years later they will wish they had taken their education seriously. A person who constantly neglects their health may not notice the damage right away, but in time they will suffer the results of their choices. Someone who ignores financial discipline may enjoy reckless spending for a while, but eventually they will realize the cost of their irresponsibility. The difference between those who thrive and those who struggle is often a simple matter of whether they applied wisdom early or waited until later to learn its lessons. Wisdom is not something to be appreciated only in hindsight. It is meant to be embraced in the present, to guide decisions, to shape character, and to build a life that is free from unnecessary regret. The greatest advantage a person can have is the ability to recognize what truly matters while they still have time to act on it. Those who seek wisdom today will walk in success, while those who ignore it will one day look back, realizing too late what they lost. Life has a way of revealing the truth over time. There are moments when people overlook, mistreat, or undervalue you simply because they do not see your worth. They may take your kindness for granted, dismiss your contributions, or even treat you as if you are easily replaceable. But the truth is, time has a way of teaching lessons that words cannot. One day, the same people who ignored or mistreated you will look back and realize their mistake. They will wish they had treated you with more respect, appreciation, and care. There are people whose lives are better because of you. There are places where your influence is shaping the environment. Whether you realize it or not, the way you speak, the way you help, the way you carry yourself, it all leaves a mark. You were not placed here by accident. The gifts inside you, the wisdom you share, the way you love and serve others, these things matter, even when the world does not give you the credit you deserve. So do not be discouraged when you feel unseen. Do not allow a lack of recognition to make you doubt your significance. Keep walking in your purpose. Keep being excellent. Keep showing up, because one day, when you are no longer in the same position, when you have moved on to greater things, the very people who overlooked you will realize the weight of your presence. And by then, you will have already stepped into the next level of your calling, no longer waiting for them to notice what God already knew all along, that you were created for something great. Life has a way of teaching people lessons through loss. Many fail to appreciate what is right in front of them until it is no longer available. This truth applies to relationships, friendships, opportunities, and even leadership. The sad reality is that human nature often overlooks what is consistent, assuming it will always be there. But when that presence is gone, when the loyalty, support, wisdom, or love is no longer accessible, regret sets in. The realization of what was lost becomes a painful weight, one that cannot always be reversed. History and personal experiences prove that people do not always recognize value when they have it. A devoted friend is taken for granted until they decide to walk away. A faithful spouse is neglected until they finally give up. A hardworking employee is overlooked until they resign and take their skills elsewhere. A great leader is criticized and unappreciated until they step down, and suddenly, chaos replaces the stability they once provided. This is the cycle of delayed appreciation, one that leaves those who fail to recognize value drowning in regret. Regret is a painful emotion because it is rooted in lost opportunities. Unlike temporary disappointments, regret lingers because it reminds people that they had a chance to act differently but chose not to. It forces them to see the moments they could have said thank you, the opportunities they could have handled better, and the people they should have treated with more care. The weight of this realization is heavy because, in many cases, there is no way to undo the damage. What was ignored is now inaccessible. What was once freely given is no longer offered. What was assumed to be ordinary is now missed desperately. This reality plays out in every aspect of life. Parents who spend years sacrificing for their children are sometimes taken for granted until they are gone. A leader who guided people with wisdom is often dismissed until their absence exposes just how much they held things together. Even in friendships, one person may give and invest constantly while the other fails to reciprocate, only realizing their mistake when that connection is severed. It is a painful wake-up call, but one that comes too late for those who fail to value what they have while it is present. The tragedy of delayed appreciation is that it does not have to happen. People do not have to learn through loss. The key is to develop an awareness of the people and opportunities that add value to life and to express gratitude while there is still time. Instead of assuming someone will always be there, cherish them now. Instead of waiting for a situation to change before recognizing its worth, acknowledge it in the present. The greatest wisdom is not in realizing value after it is gone, but in seeing it while it is still within reach. Those who learn this lesson early avoid the painful burden of regret, while those who fail to see it are left wishing they had understood sooner. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is waiting for others to recognize their value before they commit to growth. Too many people abandon their potential because they feel unseen, unappreciated, or overlooked. They stop working on their dreams, stop investing in their skills, and stop pursuing excellence simply because the world is not clapping for them. But the truth is, greatness is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the unseen moments of preparation. If you want to reach the level of success and impact that you were created for, you must keep building yourself, even when no one notices. The most powerful individuals in history did not wait for applause before they started their journey. They kept working when no one was watching, kept sharpening their skills when no one was listening, and kept believing in themselves when others doubted them. Every great leader, innovator, or visionary had a season where they were ignored, underestimated, or even ridiculed. But they did not stop. They understood that preparation in obscurity is what qualifies a person for visibility. What you do in the quiet seasons of your life determines how high you will rise when your time comes. People often fail to value what is consistent in their lives. When you are always there, supporting, helping, and giving, many assume it is ordinary. They assume you will always be available, that your patience has no limits, and that they can neglect you without consequences. But what they fail to understand is that nothing in life is guaranteed. The person they take for granted today may be the one they desperately wish for tomorrow. By the time they recognize your worth, you may have already moved on to a place where their opinions no longer matter. This reality is evident in all areas of life. A loyal friend who was ignored becomes the one they wish they had stayed connected with. A hardworking employee who was unappreciated becomes the one they wish they had retained. A faithful partner who was taken for granted becomes the one they wish they had cherished. The pain of realization is often strongest when it is too late to correct the mistake. When you are no longer available, when you have outgrown their space, or when life has taken you in a new direction, they will feel the weight of what they lost. Regret is a powerful teacher, and it often comes to those who fail to see value in the present. Many people only realize how much someone meant to them after that person has left. The conversations they ignored, the love they dismissed, and the sacrifices they failed to acknowledge all come rushing back. But by then they have no access to what they once took for granted. They may reach out, hoping to fix what they damaged, but they will find that some losses cannot be undone. For you, this is not a reason to be bitter or to seek revenge. It is a reason to continue growing, to keep becoming the best version of yourself, and to move forward without looking back. When people finally realize what they lost, it is not your responsibility to fix their regret. Your journey is about becoming everything you were meant to be, with or without their approval. The day will come when they look back and wish they had treated you better. But by that time, you will have already stepped into greater things, and their realization will no longer hold any power over you. Life has a way of revealing truth over time. People often fail to recognize value when it is right in front of them. They ignore wisdom, take relationships for granted, and overlook those who genuinely care, only to regret it when it is too late. But just because others do not see your worth now does not mean you are not valuable. Your presence carries purpose. Your growth matters, and your future is far greater than the opinions of those who fail to appreciate you. Do not wait for others to acknowledge you before you commit to becoming the best version of yourself. Keep building, keep growing, and keep walking in wisdom. Let time handle those who doubted, ignored, or mistreated you. One day, they will realize what they lost, but by then, you will have moved forward into the life you were meant to live. Regret belongs to those who fail to see value in the present. But you have the power to recognize what matters now. Appreciate the people in your life before they are gone. Embrace wisdom before it becomes a painful lesson. And most importantly, never allow someone's inability to see your worth make you doubt who you are. The day will come when the same people who overlooked you will wish they had treated you differently. But by then you will be too far held to turn back.